Hey guys, it's Caleb from Rokblokz. Today in the shop we have this 2023 GMC Canyon. We got a new mud flap kit for it, so let's go ahead and show you how to install it. Here we have the tools laid out that you'll need for install. Today we'll be using a marker to mark some hole locations on the front. We'll be using a trim tool to remove some factory inserts. You'll be using an 1/8 inch Allen, a Phillips head drive, a 4mm Allen, and a T10 Torx, and then we'll also need a level for checking level. Here we have your front laid out. What you'll get in your kit is your front flap for that corner. You'll get your front shim, you'll get your front mount plate, then you'll get your front spacer, then you'll also get the hardware. We'll go ahead and put a breakdown of that hardware on the screen right now. Before we head to the vehicle, we're going to assemble the flap on the bench. So to do so, we're going to take our mount plate, we're going to flip it so that the etching is face down. We're going to press in our flange nuts into the hex-shaped holes, making sure that the hexes are lined up so they go in easier. These can be a little bit snug. You can always use a mallet to help leverage them in if you need. So now that that's prepared, I'm going to take it and we're going to flip it back over. We'll slide that under our main flap. We're going to take our shim, put that between the flap and the mount plate, and align the holes, and then we'll align the holes on our mud flap to all the other holes. Then we're going to take our button heads with our 1/8 inch Allen. I'm just going to go ahead and get those started. Now as we're doing it, you could go ahead and if you want, you can put some medium strength thread locker on your threads to help with some vibration resistance. That's an optional step. But we're just going to go ahead and we're going to get all the ones that don't have the clearance for the brackets started. Those somewhat snug down like so. As you can see, our plates align like so. We'll take our brackets and slide them in the slots so that way they step towards the side that is blank and doesn't have the logo. So that way the flap will essentially step from the inside of the fender, out of the fender, and back when installed. So now with those in place, we're going to go ahead and get our screws started. Now we're just going to finish tightening our last screw here on this second bracket. Just going to loosen it just a little bit. Adjust it so all the layers are even on this inside here. It's really up to your discretion. Just kind of get them mostly aligned. And then the two with brackets you can leave loose. And the four other ones, we're just going to get those snug. Don't need to go so tight that it starts deforming and indenting the material. And there you have it. That's your front flap assembly complete. Now let's head to the vehicle and begin installing. Here we are at the front fender. We're going to begin by removing some factory fasteners and inserts on the bottom. The ones that we'll be removing today is this one, this one, this one, and this one. We're going to do that so that we can flex and move the liner out of the way, and we're also going to kind of pull the bottom of the flare out just a little bit so that we can gain access to the mounting tabs behind the liner right here. So let's go ahead, get those removed, and get that liner opened up. These are just your T10 Torx. So we'll go ahead, get our tool in here. Make sure you save those, put those to the side. We will be putting them back in. And then on the bottom, we're going to take our trim pry tool and we're just going to get underneath the insert on this side. We'll save that as well. We'll be reusing that underneath there. So now we're just going to shift the liner out of its position. So we're going to do so by kind of pulling the liner just a little bit, or pulling the fender and then pulling the liner out, exposing the two mounting points right here. So we'll pull that out a bit. And now with that pulled out, we're going to take one of our screws and we're going to align the plastic of the felt layer to the bottom hole. And we're just going to align that and hold it in place lightly with the screw, just like so. What that's going to do is allow us to kind of mark just right here. We just need a couple of dots on your flare, marking which height these holes are at. So we're going to go ahead, get a couple of marks on there just to help with hole location. Just a couple of dots like so. Now we can go ahead, take our small metal clips. We're going to put these over top of these mounting tabs. Like so. Get those in position. As you can see, we have our OEM screw here. We've placed our two clips and we've marked the location of where those clips are on our fender flare. And the reason you want your fender flare up tight against is so that it knows where it's at. If this is loose and out of the way, your markings can become wrong. So it's best to have it in its original position. We'll put our clips on, mark the location of the holes, and now we'll go ahead and tuck it all back together. Set that back to the side. We're going to pull our flare back out just a little bit, and now we're just going to tuck our liner back into its original position. Yeah, like that. Just kind of work it along the fender just ever so slightly until it gets in there. And now we'll lift the flare back into position like so. Now we're going to put all our factory inserts and screws back into position. Push that insert back in on the bottom. Take our 3 liner screws and we're going to put those back in, securing our liner. Now that we've got the liner back in place and our flare back in place, we're going to go ahead and create our mount holes using our dots that we use to mark. We're going to take our 1-inch screws and we're just going to go ahead and pierce through the liner at that point, corresponding with our mark. And then we're just going to run those in, and you should find the clips located behind, so your screws are actually grabbing into them. Alright, with our holes created, we'll go ahead, take those back out, we'll grab our flap and begin mounting. To begin mounting, we're going to take our flap, we're going to tuck it. This has a recess right here for the pinch weld area right there, and that's going to go around it. We're going to line our hole here with the factory hole in the body right there. Now we're just going to lift it into position, aligning our brackets. Then we'll take our spacer here. We're going to place it like so, aligning with our holes. And now we'll take our 1/4-inch screws and get those started by hand. This makes it easier to get it started by hand because we already made those holes earlier. And now with that supported, we can go ahead, we're going to grab our Torx and secure that bottom screw. Next, we're going to take our Phillips head and we're going to snug these down. Just lightly for now. And then we're going to go ahead and with those lightly snugged down, we're going to check along the bottom of our flap, get it adjusted to our liking. Now we're going to grab our 1/8 inch Allen and tighten the screws going through the locations with the bracket. There should be a nice consistent small gap along the fender's edge from the flap. The flap won't be fully pressed up against the flare. It'll have a small gap just between it, just to keep it from rubbing on the actual flare. Now with the small button heads fully secured, we're going to go ahead and fully secure our inner mounting points. Those fully tightened down, that's how you complete the front install. You can repeat these same steps on the other side. Now let's go ahead and jump to the rear. Here we have the rear laid out. What you'll get in your kit is your rear flap for that corner and then your rear mount plate. Then you also get the hardware. We'll go ahead and put a breakdown of that hardware on the screen right now. Now let's head to the vehicle and begin installing. Here we are at the rear of the vehicle. We're going to begin by removing some of the factory fasteners. We're going to remove the 3 screws right here, and right here. These are just a T10 Torx. We've already got ours loosened. We're just going to get those out of our way. We'll just set those to the side. We will be reusing them. Now we're going to grab our mount plate and take it, and we're going to slide it behind the fender's edge along here, right where the part number is. That's going to tuck in behind the fender right there, and we're going to line this hole and this hole with the mount holes right there. So we'll get those in place. As you can see, we got our screw holes aligned. We're going to take our factory screws and put those back into their original locations. And we're going to screw those in about 75% of the way. We don't want our mount plate fully tightened down quite yet. We want it to still be able to move. Now we're going to take our mud flap and we're going to grab a 16mm button head with our washer, placing that through our flap, placing a 5mm spacer on the back side, and we're going to align that inner mount point with the innermost T-nut on the mount plate. And we're just going to go ahead and get this started. What we're doing is with our mount plate loose, we're going to get our flap attached at the 3 points that are located on the mount point. We're going to have those aligned. Our next hole will also be a 16mm button head with a washer and a 5mm spacer. And once we have the flap aligned to the mount plate, then we will adjust our flap around so that way our 4th mount hole here aligns with the OEM hole in the fender. And then that way we know everything is in the right place. And for our last hole, it's also a same 16mm button head with a washer and a 5mm spacer on the back side. When it comes to the edge here, you want to make sure that your spacer is sitting just to the side of the fender's flare. You don't want it sitting on top of the fender flare at all. So we'll get it like so. We'll pull it. We'll adjust our flap until we get it just aligned to right there. Now we'll take our last factory screw, place it through a 1.25" washer, and then we're going to put that into our bottom hole right here. Now with that fully pulled out and adjusted, go ahead and check, make sure that it's level right here. And now with it level, we're going to go ahead and we're going to tighten down our mount plate on these inner 2 screws right here. With that mount plate in place, now you can set the adjustment of your flap in and out. We're going to just set it all the way out. Now we're going to tighten our bottom screw here. And we'll switch over to our 4mm Allen and tighten the 3 remaining screws. With those fully tightened down, that's how you complete the rear. You can repeat these same steps on the other side. Thanks for watching.